talked about. There's a lot of elite individual defenders as Tatum knocks down another. He's unguardable.
So the Celtics took care of business. In a Game 7 that was supposed to be a battle, Jayson Tatum had one of the greatest individual performances that I have ever seen. Jayson Tatum dropped 51 points, which is the most in a Game 7 ever. Like, literally ever. Nobody has ever dropped more than 51 points in a must-win Game 7. So in the first half, it sort of looked like it was going to be a battle. Tatum was hooping, but PJ Tucker was hitting corner threes, and the Celtics were only up 3. So then we get to the second half, and just everything just went Celtics. Tatum couldn't miss, 3 after 3, drive after drive, and all of those frustrating Philly threes from Harden and Tucker just stopped falling. And Embiid never really showed up. Harden never really showed up. I said in my previous video that James Harden was the metric, that James Harden would decide this series. James Harden had 9 points. 9. He was absolutely atrocious, and Embiid really did not make beating Jokic out for MVP look all that good, because he only had 15. He was missing all the step backs. He was refusing to post up Al Horford, even though Al's like 100, and Embiid could have easily gone down low, made a couple easy hook shots, but he just kept doing that annoying step back jump shot. It almost felt like the two of them gave up. They didn't want to be there. And everybody's blaming Doc Rivers because the dude blows leads like nobody's business. You know, whether it was the Celtics or the Clippers and the Sixers. But this one's not on Doc. When your two stars score 15 and 9 points respectively, what coaching adjustment are you supposed to do? That is on Embiid and that is on Harden. They failed. And contrary to Embiid's quoting of Giannis's no failure in sports, this was an absolute embarrassing failure. And this one was even worse because at least Giannis showed up. Embiid didn't care. He didn't seem to care. It felt like when his MVP was won, he checked out. And Harden did in closeout games what Harden does, come up short. So the Celtics move on. In 5 quarters, Jayson Tatum did a literal 180 flip on his image, on his legacy. He went from a choker potentially to now an assassin, and everybody's talking about his 51-point performance, and rightfully so, because it was actually unreal. It reminded me of back in 2008 when Paul Pierce and LeBron had that incredible, legendary Game 7 duel in that semifinals. The only difference is there was no LeBron James on the other side. Embiid looked like Anderson Varejao at best. So the Sixers are out. Harden's probably going to go back to Houston. Embiid will sulk his way through the offseason. And now the Celtics play the Heat. So when you look at the Heat's roster, it's a little confusing, right? You see Jimmy Butler, you see Bam, you see Kyle Lowry, and then you just start seeing a lot of role players, and if you're not a diehard fan, possibly people you've never heard. It's a really confusing team because they play up so much. You cannot take the Miami Heat lightly, and they play Boston better than probably anyone. So the Celtics are going to have their work cut out from them. Like, I was seeing analytic stuff on ESPN saying that the Celtics had like a 97% chance to win. And let me tell you, that is so disrespectful to the Heat. Jimmy Butler plays in the playoffs like a literal superstar, top 3 MVP type guy. And Bam sometimes looks like 2000 Shaquille O'Neal against the Celtics. So the Celtics better not take this team lightly, or they'll be packing it, going to Cancun, going golfing, and it just will be very unfortunate. It'll feel like the bubble where an opportunity got lost. So for the Celtics, the key is going to be Tatum, obviously. Hopefully he keeps up his incredible stretch. His first halves are efficient. He's taking it to the hole. He's being aggressive. And if his shot's not there, he's distributing, taking it to the hole, drawing fouls. A low-key, massive, important part of the Celtics is Derek White. So nobody's really talking about it because the Celtics won and all is good. But Derek White had a horrendous series. I mean, he got benched. He's been the starter literally the whole season. He was the starter versus the Hawks, and he was so ineffective that he got benched. And look, he probably should have been benched, ever since Rob came back. Rob coming off the bench was kind of frustrating because we know how good he is. But Derek White has got to play better. His shot has to be better. He has to take better care of the ball. In his defense, it felt like sometimes he was getting embarrassed by Tyrese Maxey. So I expect a lot better from a guy that won NBA Player of the Week. I mean, people were saying all season that White was the third best player on the team. And in the Sixers series, he was probably the seventh. In addition, Joe Mazzulla is going to have to look at his rotation. The core six, the starters plus Brogdon played a lot of minutes. Rob played 30, Al played 33, Brogdon was high 30s, and the rest of the starters were in the 40s. And that series went 7, so the Celtics are obviously very beat right now. So Grant Williams will probably be getting some looks. And he's got to come in, hit his threes, don't create shots, and if you're tasked with covering Bam or Kevin Love, do it and be physical. That's it. I don't want to see you trying to be Magic Johnson out there, but Grant will get some action. Now for the Heat, they're going to have to play perfect. They can absolutely win this series. They're not a real 8 seed. Everybody knows that. Jimmy missed a lot of time this year, and Eric Spoelstra, to me, is probably the best coach in the league. So Jimmy is obviously going to have to play like playoff Jimmy in the 30-35 point range and not the regular season Jimmy that's, a top 15, top 20 player. Jimmy is going to have to perform incredibly. Bam has to be dropping 25 and 10. And the role players are going to have to hit their threes. Max Strus, he's somebody that has given the Celtics trouble. He's going to be pesky. And he's going to be a massive key for this, for this team, for this series. But ultimately, they don't have Tyler Hero. They don't have Victor Oladipo. It does sort of feel like they just don't have the star power. You can only do money ball type basketball for so long. At the end of the day, you need a superstar. And will Jimmy play perfect? I don't know. But ultimately, my prediction for this series is Celtics in 6. There is no shot the Celtics sweep the Heat. That is insanely disrespectful. Spoelstra's too good, Jimmy's too good, Bam is too good. But the Celtics just have so much more talent. Tatum is far and above the best player on the court. And then Jalen and Jimmy are sort of an alternative. So the Celtics just have so much more power. So it'll go 6. And the Celtics will move on to the NBA Finals. That's what I think. But let's see. Like the bubble, the Celtics played down. They better have learned from the bubble. Absolutely do not take the Heat lightly. Play the game, protect the ball, and let's make a trip back to the NBA Finals.